I don't know. The best memory was to see him for the first time. As a prisoner, he was being taken to the visit area, going to see Mama, and I was going to see a member of the family. And we found ourselves at the same spot. It's not a room, it's a passage where we held phones so that your family member is the other side. He was waiting. I was taken also to wait there. I had not yet laid eyes upon him. I had lived with his children. I had lived with his wife, Winnie Mandela. I'm the only person in prison who had been living with his family for 2 years or for any amount of time. So he had not met me, and I was just about 2 weeks old in prison. There I saw this man. Something told him, because the pictures had changed. I was used to Madiba of black hair, and here's this, and that Madiba was like a boxer. He was big. We were 4 into jail. And those are the pictures in the movies where he was saying, there will come a time to reply, you know, those. But here I see this much more leaner person. He just said, this is him. I said, Nelson Mandela, because we didn't know him as Madiba at the time. I said, Comrade Nelson Mandela. He turned around and said, oh yeah. What a moment, in prison. And the boys were guarding him. There were two for, because of the visit. They had to restrain, and I nearly lost 30 minutes. That was my mother who was there. Nearly lost 30 minutes because they nearly blocked my visit, sent me back because of violating a particular rule of the prison. But the excitement of seeing Madiba for the first time. What a time. We finished 11 years together in jail. And they took him away. You remember, to the other places, first Pollsmoor and then Victor Verster. And then 10 of us were taken secretly in 1989, privately, by boat, to go and have a tete-a-tete with him. After his discussions with the president at the time, the Groot Crocodile, P.W. Botha, Tera Lekwata was there, Ibrahim, Mfenendala, and other comrades. Harry Gwala was not there. We had to go and see him there to have a discussion. It was about 2 years since we had seen him. They'd taken him away from us, isolated. Then I saw him next to a swimming pool, wearing normal slacks, no longer in prison uniform. What a moment. And this time we knew this is the president of the country. It was very clear what was happening at the time. Negotiations had not yet started, and he had come to brief us about the process which he had started towards the resolving or the resolution of the country's problems. Seeing Madiba at that time, now realizing and visualizing that we're free. And we came there as negotiators with him, as interlocutors, as people in dialogue, for him to carry the message to Oliver Tambo outside about the views that we have in prison in respect of the pressure he was putting on them to begin to negotiate with Oliver Tambo. So, your question, seeing him there next to that pool in the area of Franschhoek, it's those are moments. Now, the Mandela who stands up, the Mandela, let's free South Africa, there will come a time to do this, never and never again. That's the Mandela we all know. But these are the private moments that one remembers. That this, I remember seeing him in this privacy.
To those of us who may never have had the opportunity to spend or to sit as closely to him, to spend the kind of time you spent with him, what is it that you think we don't know about Madiba?
I think he's not a wild jack in a pack, some unknown. He may be an elephant in the room with certain things that we are not clear about. I think we may not know that Tata sometimes wants to hit back hard when something is wrong. And has and restrains himself. But sometimes has people who have to restrain him. I think when some of those people like Walter Sisulu, Tata, Kamel, Governor Mbeki, Motsoaledi, they used to mold this icon in different ways. And that's what I found, is this Rivonia lily sleeve leadership, but in prison. Here are people who have been together since the 40s of the previous century, with conflict, agreements, love, but conflict. Politics is so conflictual, with conflict and resolution, conflict, resolution, conflict, contradictions, discussions, dialogue, differences, contradictions, right throughout, until now. Here are people I found now locked in the same section, B section of Robben Island, still carrying the scars of some of the wars, because history has got a long memory. And I found that in that short passage, there were long memories. And somebody would remind another person, you remember at such a meeting, you raised this resolution. And as Mutsualedi would say, Mandela, don't forget that you took a position against me at such and such a time. And you'll be serious about it. And you see the spirit of people forgiving and understanding, but sometimes holding on to firm views. I found Madiba in discussions sometimes wanting to hit back hard, sometimes feeling that he's been persecuted by others. He's gone through heavy times. Sometimes feeling that his back is on the wall. And the heavyweight or the boxer in him always wanting to come out with the jabs or with the spear, as he was the first commander-in-chief. There was that thing, but there were restraints. Madiba was not only, he learned self-restraint from being restrained. This is my observation. And it's people like Sisulu who would come and say, Madiba. And when those appear, he slows down. His tail just sits down very quietly. You know, to have such a powerful person as Nelson Mandela, it's actually dangerous. But it's so pleasing to know that a man of such power can be surrounded by people he respects. Otherwise, he can be a dictator. It is the Sisulus around who really molded. So the rough diamond, this stone from Vezo, was shaped to becoming this emblematic, this iconic leader that Mandela has become, this almost saintly person that Mandela has become, thanks to the help of the other leaders that made him, but thanks to his ability to feel the restraints. But Madiba, if this leadership was not there, would have been a very tough leader to deal with. De Klerk once tasted that. Because on that day of the De Klerk thing, he was not restrained. He just stood up. He consulted no one. When he felt that an opportunity he had given as a reconciler and a unifier, a man who's been in jail all these years, jailed by people like De Klerk. De Klerk today is one of us, of course, as the country's deputy president. I'm just describing the situation that day. Feeling that I have gone this far. And here is a man who abuses a moment when we should now conclude in the eyes of the nation, because we are running live, as we are. He consulted no one. And what came out on that day, many people, Chris Hani was there, Chris Hani himself, and that's a soldier's soldier. That's a commander's commander. Chris Hani said, I too would not have stated this matter like that. People were cringing, but we're feeling that. And then that's when they realized this is the Nelson Mandela who was in jail for 27 years. Well, let me say the following. Who's Nelson Mandela? The Dalai Lama painting of Nelson Mandela. Yeah, maybe he's got those things, the saintly one, or Gabriel or St. Paul, a Bishop Tutu around him, and so on. What people forget is that when our people were being killed and the dying was endless, even if it's 58 years of non-violent struggle from 1912 to 1960, we keep on dying. He had come and said, there comes a time when you're left with two choices: live forever on your knees or die standing like a man. Who did the forces of change, of democracy in South Africa, the ANC at the time, who did they put across to hit back at the moment when we're dying? When we're being killed, we decide it's armed struggle. You know what is armed struggle? You decide to go and kill now. who do you put forward to say we are killing them? Because let me strip the armed struggle of its aura. You know, ladies, Leaf, you have been there. What do you think they were doing there? They were planning to hit back hard. Now it's an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Blood must flow, because ours is flowing. We didn't seek for a priest. It is this man that we found. Why him? Because he had the ability to fight, even physically. So we felt he can lead the physical struggle as an intellectual of our armed struggle, to kill or be killed. So he's a soldier. He's a general. This is a field marshal. But of course, when you see him in his shirts and today he's quite, we tend to forget who he is. Sometimes that's why we say some people should understand. When you speak about Mandela, take him holistically and not chop and change parts and pieces about him.
Do you think a lot of South Africans, especially those who don't share his basic politics, sort of miss that?
They do. Or they prefer to do. They do and take that preference because it was not common for people to accept that we fight. There are pacifists even amongst the ANC. So to be ANC didn't mean that you can belong to Mandela's army. There was a particular culture of people, trade of people, type of people who became fighters with guns. But there were other people inside the ANC, as good and even better, who believe that I don't want a pistol in my hand, I don't want a machine gun. I belong to the other group, for good or for bad. So there are people who are not in the ANC who liked his armed struggle. But then there are also people who are not in the ANC who didn't like his armed struggle. So you find all those people who cannot relate to some of the, but then who see the goodness and the justness of what he was aiming to do and the eventuality ness of his achievements. So people forget that Christ had to whip people in a church. They don't want to speak about that one. So the Mandela that people should accept is the full Mandela. But of course, we are not forcing that Mandela. At the Mandela Foundation, at the Center of Memory, we put Mandela in all his facets. So people can relate to this part of him, to that part of him, as long as you don't distort other parts.
Sexwale, reflecting on his own moments with Madiba. Now, Zelda Lekranj, who was Madiba's PA for a good number of years, earlier this week wrote a eulogy which she dedicated to her hero. This morning we asked her to read it to us, and yeah, this is how it went.
My sincere condolences to Mrs. Krasa Machel, or Mum as I know her, Maki, Zeni, Zinzi, Josina, Malinga, and the entire Mandela family, as well as everyone who feels a sense of loss. Nelson Mandela inspired people to forgive, to reconcile, to care, to be selfless, to be tolerant, to maintain dignity no matter what the circumstances. I can attest to each of these because these are the ways in which he changed my life over the past 19 years. I'm blessed and honored by the privilege to have had the opportunity to serve him. I often battled with relentless pressure, but then I looked at him, who carried himself with such grace and energy. I never left, I never could. Nelson Mandela did not demand loyalty, but he inspired profound and unwavering loyalty from everyone whose life he touched. And now, as we grieve the departure of Madiba, I'm slowly coming to terms with the fact that I will never see him again. But heroes never die. As sad as it makes me that I will never walk into a room again and see his generous, infectious smile or hear him say, "Oh, Zaldina, you are here." I have come to terms with the fact that Madiba's legacy is not dependent on his presence. His legacy will not only live on in everything that has been named after him, the books, the images, the movies. It will live on in how we feel when we hear his name. The respect and love, the unity inspired in all of us as a country, but particularly how we relate to one another. Madiba will forever be present in my life because he made me into the human being that I am today. I will cherish every smile, the pleasant but also the difficult times, and especially my barefoot moments. Thank you for all the wonderful opportunities you afforded me, but most of all, thank you for believing in me, Kulu, making me a better person, a better South African. Tot weerziens, Kulu. I will love you every day for the rest of my life. Oh, man.
Zelda Lekranji reading that eulogy dedicated to Madiba. Well, that's how we come to the end of our Madiba